I can use bring.
Workshop this evening. We're so glad that you're joining us tonight. My name is Tiana Harrison, and I'm the Education and Volunteer Coordinator at Community Homeworks. If you're watching this live, please feel free to comment and let us know where you're tuning in from. Also, if you would like to join in on the discussion or ask questions, please put that in the comment section as well. If you're watching this after the live broadcast, we're still happy to answer your questions. It just may take us a little longer to respond. Community Homeworks is a nonprofit organization with a mission to empower homeowners to maintain safe, sustainable, and dignified homes. We get our fundings from grants, gifts, and donations. So if you find value in this workshop tonight, we encourage you to donate on our website at communityhomeworks.org. Tonight's workshop is titled Basic Lawnmower Maintenance, and our instructor is none other than the magnificent Mr. Lee Taylor. We have a full house tonight, so I am going to turn the floor over to Mr. Taylor. Thank you so much.
So this is a hands-on class, and normally we only do one lawnmower, but we have 3 tonight, so that's cool. If you brought a lawnmower, you're going to be working on it. If you want to work on a lawnmower, we got one right here. So, and this is really a hands-on class. So we have gloves and everything else. And the way we do it is we normally pass around the coffee can of stuff, but we're going to have somebody draw these. And what we'll do is we'll go over and how to do that specific part. We've broken this down into what, 7 or so categories. Here's the drawer, right? Do you want to come up and do stuff? No. Okay. Just hold on for a minute. So a couple safety things. First. Anytime you're working on a lawnmower, before you start working on it, ideally it's out of gas. Siphon it out or run it out or whatever. And that boils down to a couple of different things. One is it's just another way to have it not necessarily start up on you accidentally when you don't really want it to, right? And also, too, with the oil, it depends on the mower. Some mowers want to be tilted over. Some have a plug on the bottom. We'll go over that. So that's a good idea to have that. If you have gas in it, you can work on it. You just have to be careful, especially if you're tipping it sideways to be able to access things. The other thing is, I'll point this out, and this is where if you're way in the back, you may want to bring your chairs around because we're going to be pointing at a lot of little things here that you want to see. Ideally, you have your spark plug right in the front. So what I say is go ahead and disconnect that spark plug. That will make it so that you're not doing the old style airplane when you move the blade and have it kick on. So who brought these mowers? You did? And you guys did? I'll let you pick. So go ahead and disengage your mower or your spark plug from your mower. It's right up front. All right. We have gloves here. We have 2 socket sets. We have all sorts of things. So we're going to find out what the first thing we're going to do is. And like I said, if you want, does anybody want to work on this one? You want to do it? Okay. Come on down. And we can trade too. If somebody else wants to do it, jump right in. So what's the first thing? Oh, how amazing that is. All right. So with that, we're going to grab a container. There's another container there. Do we by chance have another one of these? Okay. All right. So come on over. Anybody need gloves? We got nitro gloves, all that. You good? You good? All right. All right. So again, it depends on the mower itself. This one's my mower, and it's designed to be able to tip it sideways and drain right out of the fill plug as far as where you fill that oil, right? So while Jason's looking for that, we're going to go ahead and let's use these two here. If Jason finds one, I got something else that we can do. So find out where your oil is. Okay, now there is a little variance on that one. That Toro I know for sure is going to be a tip. So and yeah, you actually tilt. Yep, you tilt the whole thing over, right? And it drains out. It just depends on the model. So this is where. Go ahead and set that up here so we don't get gucking it. See all that? All right. So get this. Now, this is the issue with all the gas in it. So what we're going to do, see, that's what I'm talking about. You may want to come up here and see. Some of them have plugs on the underside as far as a drain plug for the oil. It's usually a recessed plug. We're not seeing that. Yep, I'm not seeing it anywhere in there. So this is where we need to be careful. Yeah, with the tip with the gas. So we're going to go like this. We're going to gently tip this over. If it starts leaking gas, stop, please. So this might be a real good indicator of why we have. Go ahead and tip it all the way. You should be able to just tilt it and let it drain out. So just sitting there. Go ahead and you can just set that down. There you go. So that's why having a little catch pan like this is a good idea. For that. You also want to keep an eye. Like I said, if you have gas, you want to make sure it's not leaking out up here and stuff. So that's one of the things I was talking about as far as that gas leaking out, just not having it in there. Oh, okay. That works. So again, this is out of order. We're going to talk about the order of things. Some people like to start their mower up and let it run for a little bit to warm that oil up so it gets all drained out. If you do that, realize, it can be hot. So, and you can see it's pretty much all drained out. There's no more dripping. So let's go ahead and tip this one up. And go ahead and put that cover back on. That's the other thing you want to do. Now we can use this one to tilt this guy. So, and you got all yours out. Somebody want to give her a hand tilting this one? You want gloves? No? Take that over there. And you got all yours out there? All right, good deal. So one of the things I like to do at this point is get an old magnet and run it through that old cruddy oil. Just snug it in because the next one of them is going to be filling it. So, but I'll run that magnet through that oil just to see if there's metal shavings. If you're starting, you're always going to have some, but if you do it every time, you're going to get a feel. Like if you do it and you get just a little bit, and the next time you do it, you get a little more and a little more and a little more. You start realizing, I'm going to start saving up for a mower, right? Because it's starting to chew up the pistons and everything else. So I don't have a magnet, but it's a little thing you can do. So
should probably clear off the deck before we tilt the grass into the oil.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, don't kill my mower. Again, back to the order of things. So yeah, you want to get that stuff out, clean that up. Right. If you have a bunch of gunk up on the deck, and this is again, this we're talking about details, right? And in order you put it in, it's a little more fun this way. So, and some of this is not going to make sense as far as the order, and you just kind of let it go with that. Oh, just wait, because that's one of the things we do too. Yep, it's one of the things we do. All right. So we got most of the oil out of there. Good deal. Go ahead and put your dipstick back in. Yep. If you want to clean it, that'd probably be a good thing. That's that. So, and again, there are mowers out there that don't have oil. So if you have one of those gas oil mixes, this is something you don't have to do. Usually like lawn boys or something like that. But you're going to know that. If you have to mix your oil and gas together, you don't have this step. So that's kind of nice. All right. Now, the other thing is how much oil goes in. That one depends on the mower, depends on the engine, all that sort of stuff. And usually what I'll say is once we get to that point, you add a little bit and check your dipstick, let it sit, and you can work on the other stuff. You don't want to overfill it. And, most of the dipsticks are going to have your little check mark areas where you want that oil to be somewhere in there, just like a car, So, yep, if you look at that one, it's a little, right. So, if some people, once you get used to it after a while, you'll say, oh, man, it takes however many ounces or whatever. And we'll get to that when we're putting that in. Yeah. Because it was tipped sideways. And when you tip it back, you got stuff running down the sides a little bit still. So you're never going to get all of it out. It's just not going to happen. But all right. So that's draining the oil. Pretty simple, right? Okay. So with that, and again, back to the good old crazy order of things. Get some WD-40. There's another can of WD-40 here. I'll let you guys work together on that. You want a rag also, so grab a rag. Give you that. And I'll let you two work together on each one of them. So what you want to do is if you have metal cables, so like this one, this is to run it. This is to engage the drive. And you have two metal cables here. So what you want to do is and I have this because you don't want it squirting you in the face. I squirt a little oil right there, right at where that cable goes in, and then work that oil into that cable. Because that's usually one of those things that happens as far as the cable rusts out or whatever, and then somebody forces it and snaps that cable, and then you're having to go ahead and redo that. And like I said, this class, I'll let you do the next one. Don't do the pull. Don't think of that as a cable. I had somebody one time oil that up, and then it wouldn't start, so I did top one. Yep. So this one, it may have a spring, right? You may have to get in there and then work that and engage that. And then also down right by the mower. Here, give me that oil. I'll set it off to the side so it's out of the way. It's the last thing we want to step in. Thank you. So, and if that cable runs down and you see an exposed cable here, use your oily rag to kind of wipe that cable down. And also you're just moving it, maneuvering it, making sure that it's actually moving well. Yep. So you have that one. And when you squirt it in there, work that thing. Oh, you're banging right here. This is a strange one. So I'll go like that and then get in there and then right in here too. And that's where, it'll spray up and hit you in the face. So that's why I cover it with a rag. Now at this part, there's another step that you do, but again, we're staying with that. Yep, you can see that. Yep. Yep. And if you look down there, you'll see it. And it depends. It depends on the mower as far as where that cable is and all that sort of stuff. You usually can trace them out and figure out where that end of that cable is. Yeah, what you're letting. So what you want? Did you do this one? So this one trace this one out. So this one is for the drive. You're not going to have that necessarily in here. It's usually the ones that are coming over on the side, and sometimes you have an exposed cable, and sometimes you have to get down there and look a little bit and see. Okay, and again, it just depends on the model of the mower. So, but doing that, like I said, once a year, it's going to help it so those cables don't get rusty and corroded and snap on you. Got any questions on this? No? Okay. Again, orders all over the place, but what do you do? Oh boy, here we go. All right, so what you want to do is tip your mower like you did when with the oil. There you go. Nope, just like that. That works. And you're going to want to get in, pick a socket set. I don't care which one. And find the size that's going to work for that blade. And this is where, yeah, I got this one. You're going to want one of these long ones. Hello.
Oh, I'm right.
All right. 17 millimeter, okay. And so you pick the right one. You're going to want a longer handle. This is where you guys may have to share. I would probably use that guy. Yep, especially if you haven't taken it off for a while. It's going to be a bit of a bear to get off. Yep, you want that leverage to be able to. So again, you guys may have to share or whatever you need to. Yep. All right, so you found that. So hold off on this first. So what you want to do is you want to really get a good mental image on how this is put together. And what I'm talking about this is, if you guys want to see it, you got to come over here. Well, yeah, and it's all right. This is an interactive class. So, it depends. Some have this little clip right here with a bolt. Some have a big one like that. That one over there has two. So it just depends. There's a variety of them out there. So this is the part where you don't want that spark plug engaged because you're going to be doing this. And just like those old prop planes, you can start it back. You can start it up. So before you start messing with that blade, double check that spark plug is pulled off. Yeah, you don't want it connected at all. So what you can do, and if it's being stubborn, you can use, there it goes. Now, don't take it all the way off yet. Just get them loosened. You got yours loosened? Yeah, you may have to, right, yep. Yeah, do you need his? Or do you guys have one? Okay, so with that, don't use that small one. You'll snap that thing. See if this works. What is 5/8 you need? 5/8? 9/16? Here. That's what we can mix them. It doesn't really. 9/16? 9/16? Well, it's that small engage there. This is why I like, these are metric. Yeah. Here, try this way. Check if that works, and then you got this here. So get them loosened up. You get that loosened up? All right, and you got that one loosened up. Now, this is where, then you got yours. You're going on yours. Somebody may want to give them a hand holding this blade. So, and that's where we have gloves if you want them. Yeah. Here's a pair right here. Yeah, I'm talking about these. You got that? All right. Oh, that's part of it too. So again, back to this order of things. It's kind of all over the place. So once you get it loosened, what you want to do is go ahead and take this off. Keep the bolts or washers or anything, or any washers or nuts or anything along that line on that bolt. And I just set it off to the side. That way I'm not trying to remember, because I'm going to take this. This is when you take it in to get sharpened, you know. And you also want to pay attention to how that blade, just go ahead and set that guy. Yep, just like that. You also want to pay attention to how that blade was sitting, So with mine, it's a curve up or curve down, however you want to look at it. Well, so generally, if it hasn't been sharpened in a year, it needs sharpening. So here's the thing. So once you get your blade off, do whatever you need to do to remember how it goes back on, take pictures or whatever. What we're going to do is, and you can do this with a balancer, you can do it with your finger. So I go like this. And what this is going to tell me is if one side or the other has been ground up too much and it's doing one of these sort of things, then it's off balance. So, so I balance it like that. It tells me that, one side is not all beat up and whatnot. I also do a quick inspection on the cutting edge. This one's pretty dull. I mean, you can, right. And I just had this sharpened last year. So here's the thing. So what you want to do is you can sharpen it yourself if you have a grinder or something along that line. But again, you have to make sure that it stays balanced. So if you buy a sharpening kit, it's going to come with a little triangular balance thing that you balance on it. So you grind one side, it's doing this sort of thing. You can grind the other side to balance it out. Or you take it down to a place like Gale's, and I think it costs $8 or $10 or something like that. And you go, here. And while you're there, you pick up your air filter and your spark plug and whatever else. And usually by the time you're done. So, yep. And two, see, and this is a good one here. So you can see, this one's been hit a couple of rocks or whatever. And sometimes they can't get that stuff out of the blade. They can't get those dings and whatnot out. They may say you need a new blade. But if you treat your mowers halfway decent, it's going to be, generally, you're going to be able to get quite a bit of sharpenings out of them. I got to ask something. Did we write 2 of these? Just 1. Okay. Yeah. So installing it back up. So again, we're not going to sharpen it here. I want to get into that. But it is possible to do on your own. When you go to put it back together, and that's what we're going to do now, this is where you're going to want to remember. But there's one more thing that you want to do. So where's your bolt that threaded up there? All right. So you have what's called anti-seize. This is goopy. So go ahead and, here, give me your finger. Smear some right on the threads. It's going to make it so it's a little less obnoxious. Share my anti-seize with you, man. Thanks. All right, so you wipe that on. It just makes it so that it's not going to necessarily seize up, and it's going to be easier to pull that blade off. So, yeah, you just smear it into the threads just a little bit. I'll take that one. Thanks. Yeah, that's another thing. It is. Yep. So let's go ahead and put our blades back on. Nah, no. I want to make your life as difficult as possible. Oh. Yep. Right. And that's where, yeah, paying attention to how that thing came off, because usually it's a couple of days or whatever until you get back to it. But, yeah, and all right, you can be creative and however you want to be able to do that. So then, yep, you want that nice and snug. And I think they have yours there, or not use that one. Yeah, these two were the same. Yep, you want it nice and snug, right? Yeah, just Yeah, I mean, you want it snug, but you don't want to like reef on it so hard that you're never going to get it off again, you know. Because I'll be pulling this thing off later, anyways, because I got to take it in to get sharpened. Yeah. All right. No pressure. All right. So you got yours in too. Yep. You can use a hammer if you need to. Just keep a hand on it. That'll help. And sometimes a little hammer like that is nice. Where if you have a stubborn blade that does not want to come off, you can hold it and you have somebody hold the blade and you can give that ratchet set a whack and it will usually break it loose. So, yep, there you go. All right. So you got your blade on. Let's go ahead and tip it back. Well, let's go ahead and pull the next one and see where we're at because we might not have to tip it again. All right. So, again, back to this order. So, what you can see here is, I mean, over the course of the season, you get this crud that builds up on there. So we have scrapers and knife, whatever, something just to scrape off all that excess. We got wire brushes and scrubbies and all that stuff. Yep. Yeah, and I mean sometimes I even have get the old knife. Yeah. So we just try to get the worst of that stuff off. If you have a mower that has a drive in it, so like a front wheel drive or whatever, you'll see a belt underneath there. That one's got one. That one, yep. So you usually, what I'll try to do is get in there and make sure I can just get that stuff out of there. It builds up. And again, this is more for practical purposes. We're just giving you the basics on it. Here's a little stiffer brush if you need. Yeah, sometimes you do. Yeah, mulchers have a tendency to be a little worse, mulching mowers, because they're not spitting out all the grass off the side. So, yep. Right. Yep. Right. And again, talking about how you want to put this together. What she asked was, is this part of the order? As far as it's better to do this when the blade's off. Yes, it is. So another thing you can do while this is off is you can use WD-40. You can dip in your old oil and wipe it on the underside. I would suggest if you have a belt underneath, not to spray the WD-40. Just dip your rag in a little bit of oil. Like I said, my grandpa used to call it farmer's wax, and just wipe it on the inside. And it just helps so that stuff doesn't stick.
Why don't you want to put WD-40?
Well, so if I get WD-40 on a belt like this, where there's a belt down here, and I go in here and I spray it, and I get this lubricant on that belt, it's just going to slip.
So the belt would come off.
Well, it would just most likely slip and slip and slip until it usually breaks. Right. So, it's one of those things where it just kind of depends on your mower. So, and the top also. So usually with this, right, we're going to go through and we're going to check the top, grass clippings and all that sort of stuff that sit on the top for too long or you get wet. It's usually going to try to rot that deck out. You're going to get stuff that's going to be potentially rotting through. So this is a nice time to just be able to inspect that top of that deck to make sure you're not seeing the blade. I've seen some mowers where you look right in, especially ones like this, where you have a little divot and it's been so wet so long, like grass clippings and everything else, that once it's cleaned off, you see that blade spinning around. That's the time to start thinking about buying another mower. So, and you can do the same thing on the top with the oil and wipe it down and stuff with the WD-40 or something along that line. They said it just kind of helps. You can also wet this down. Some people will do that. They'll tilt it and then they'll just spray it to wet that stuff up a little bit and then scrape that off a little easier. I'm not too worried about it. This is more demonstrate. This is mine, yeah. So yeah, you want to check the underside. Another thing is while you have it tipped up like this, You may have grass or who knows what jammed up. Yep. You may have grass jammed up back here where the bag goes. So I just kind of get in there and get that worst of that stuff out too. This is too, you know, if you have that belt exposed, now is a good time to be able to check that. So you can just kind of, you know, you can grab it and you can spin it a little bit. It's a little loose, but I know it works good.
So that's all we're checking is like for looseness.
Yeah, you know, but also check, you know, cracks and right. And when you pull that, it tightens it up. Right. So I'm looking for cracks in the belt or, you know, age, that sort of stuff. And if you feel you need to change that belt, that's something you can do. Like I said, we're going through the basics. So, all right. So everybody have a pretty good deal on that. Sorry a second. Okay. Yep. Yeah, take it someplace, get it fixed. Or, yeah, I mean, like what we're talking about tonight is not necessarily, this is maintenance. This is not necessarily repair. This is so you don't have as many repairs down the line. You know, you want to take it somewhere, right? Right, or not putting gas stabilizer in it or something along that line, right? So, like I said, this last I checked, and this was quite a few years ago, in order to take it in to be able to change spark plug oil, all that sort of stuff is hanging right around $60. So, yeah. Okay, yeah. So I mean, they might do a few things we're not going to touch on tonight, but you know, yep. So, yeah, at that point. All right. So cleaning off deck on the underside and on top, we're in good shape. So what's our next step that we're going to do? All right. So what we're going to do is you go tip it back over. And what you want to do is find your socket sets and you want to check basically if there's any nuts and bolts, tires. Sometimes there's some on the underside. Sometimes they're just little wing nuts like this. So I just go through and just make sure they're snug. If your tires are real wobbly or something, you may have to get one of those socket for that and snug that up a little bit. And usually it's just a real quick check. You can just go through, and like I said, normally you're going to have your sockets. Yeah, all right. So, you know, we're just checking all that sort of stuff. Sometimes when it's tipped over, this is rare, but you'll see bolts that are going through the underside of the deck holding the motor on or the engine. You can check those if you want, but I have not seen it where one of those comes loose, but it's possible, I guess. So we're going to go through and just double check all those. Like I said, usually there's not that many. So, and this also too is a nice time to be able to check your tires, you know, if they're really getting bad or something along that line, you can address them if need be. Yep. There you go. Yep, they're always going to be a little bit wobbly because you can't, you know, they have to be able to turn. So that's the thing. I mean, if you snug the bolts holding your tires on, make sure that tire spins afterwards. Because I've seen it where somebody tightens it too much and then so right, yep. So then I just do a quick spin and say, yep, that's good. So yeah, you said real minor, but something to do. All right. Spark plug. All right. So we've already removed the cover on the spark plug. So with that, and you guys are, oh, I had one out. Where did it go? Oh, it's right there. You are ready, but you don't have a socket. Oh, yeah, you do. All right. So go ahead and spin that spark plug out. So if you have a socket set that doesn't have a spark plug wrench, and it's usually just because it has like a little rubber gasket in it, you can figure out what deep well works for that particular one. So you just kind of give it a quick check. Yep. You're going to pull that spark plug out. It's a little corroded. Yeah, I'm going to change it anyways. It's mine. I bought it. So a couple things. So with this, I pull that spark plug out. Some people, if you're not having issues with starting that mower, one or two pulls and it starts up, generally that spark plug's all right. You can get a wire brush and clean it off a little bit if you want to. Yep, that contact. So you can do something not pretty. Yeah, watch out for that. So you can just get in there and just kind of knock off the worst of that buildup. If you do need one, or if you're having that issue, again, pull that spark plug before you go to the store, before you take your mower in to get the blade sharpened and stuff. And you can get the right particular spark plug for that model. If you don't know, pull the model number off of it. And this is where it's nice to go to a local place. It's not a big box store, and they're going, we don't know. We had that issue with this one last year. For some reason, the spark plug was gone or whatever, and I was like, oh. So if you're going to reuse that spark plug, like I said, you clean it up a little bit. You want to make sure this is not loose. So this little part a lot of times comes off. If you can see that. So I just usually what I'll do is I'll make sure if I'm going to reuse that's snug. All right. Put in that bag. Yeah. In that bag, there's a spark plug in there if you want to grab that. So you got that here. Go clean that up a little bit. Yep. So this is one of those things when you're buying a mower, if you're buying a new one, sometimes these spark plugs are really tucked back in. They can be a real bear sometimes to get out. And that's one of the things I look at, how easy it is to get to that spark plug. Sometimes you have to take off the cover and play around with this and do this and remove a heat shield, and then you can get to it versus just getting to it, right? Yours looks brand new. Yep. So yours is good. Yours. Yep. So if you have one, like I said, I just check because that tip can come loose sometimes. Yep. Right. And just because, it's new doesn't mean that it's snug. So I snug that up. So you get your new spark plug. Yeah. And some come off, some don't. So with that, what you want to do is the cap that goes on. So while your spark plug's out, get that cap right there. You want it, when you engage that onto that tip, you want to hear that click. And again, this is kind of the downside of having you should feel it click inside, because inside there's a metal loop, right? And what happens is that, especially when they're exposed on the front, it gets caught on a branch or something like that and pulls it off. So what happens is that loop on the inside opens up. Yeah, okay, yeah. If you don't hear that clicking, it's not snugly over this top. You may have to get one of those pliers and you reach in there and just snug it down just a little bit. Because like I said, if it's been pulled off unintentionally multiple times, it's going to be one of those things where you're driving along and all of a sudden it dies because that plug popped off. So when you put the new spark plug back in, hand tighten it. So with this, don't use the tool automatically. So what I do is I just grab my hand. I'm going to turn counterclockwise just a couple threads. That will make sure it's seated right and you're not going to cross thread it. Then I'm also just going to spin it in with my hands, because if you just grab a tool and just start jamming away on it, you run the risk of cross threading it. And then, so spin it in by hand. If you're having issues with it seating right, do counterclockwise a couple turns, it'll seat in there, and then spin it on. And then when you snug it up, just like a quarter turn is all you want to snug that up. You don't want to over tighten it and crack. So, and it's still disconnected, so we're good. Good. Does that all make sense as far as the spark plug? Again, you run that risk of, back to I don't like gas in them or the spark plug engaged. So yours went gone pretty good. All right, that's good. So you did, and again, just a quick quarter turn to be able to snug that up. You don't want to over tighten it. All right. Any questions as far as the spark plugs go? No. Yeah, they're we'll sort all this out afterwards, right? All right, I think we're ready for the next step. Fill the oil. All right. So funnel. I have oil there. So when you're filling this, you want the right oil. That's plenty good. So again, you don't want to overfill it. So generally what I'm going to do is I have a partial one here. I'm going to put in just a little bit, and it kind of gives you an idea of how much you poured out of it in the first place. Put a little bit in, put the cap back on, work on other stuff while it's sitting flat. It depends on the mower, and they'll say they have certain ones, but this is a SAE 30 oil. And usually just a general lawnmower oil is going to work. So small engine oil. Little trick, if you're buying a container, you're perfect. So you have a container like that, and I have a container like this. I like this one better. For one little reason is it's got a little sight window on the side where I can see how many ounces I've poured out, and I don't think that one does. So details, right? Let's go ahead and pour that a little bit in. Don't overfill it because then we're tilting it back over. So, and we don't have another funnel. That's plenty good. So let's take that funnel and just shoot over here. Yeah, that works. And we can use that oil right there. Cool. So like I said, changing that oil or adding it, like I said, you put a little bit in, unless you know exactly how much it takes. And I've had this lawnmower on long enough. I should know, but I don't. So. Oh, yeah. And that's the other there as far as where that oil is. That's another little detail I'll look at when I'm buying a mower. When they're way down, and some are way underneath, and you're supposed to tilt it out because you don't have a drain plug underneath, it's a pain draining it out, and it can be a pain putting it back in. So, again, how that oil is. Like I said, the ones on top to me are nicer because you're just not fighting it as much. There's that. All right, we were ready for the next one. Air filter. All right. Yeah, we'll give it a minute. So again, back to the order. Let it settle, and then right, you don't want it, So that's one of those things you want to keep an eye on it as you're going. So you'll get your feel for how much you're going to need to do. You are missing an air filter. Spin your mower around so people can see this.
It fell off the truck on the way here.
Oh, is it in the back of the truck?
And the filter was like so nasty that I left it.
Well, go grab it.
Yeah, it's on Miller.
Oh, all right. So usually the air filters are a couple of different styles. You have paper filters. This one is screwdriver right here. Pop that guy off. So usually you can have paper filters, and sometimes all they need is just to be knocked out. You get grass clippings and whatnot. The biggest thing when you're pulling that off is be gentle, so you don't want that crud falling into where it's sucking air into the engine. So just a regular flat blade screwdriver or a little socket, little one. Yeah. Yep, there's one right there. So yeah, when I pull that off, I'm going to check that. So I'm talking about the paper filters. You have a paper filter also, I'm pretty sure. Sometimes the filters are a foam filter like this, right? And, these are nice also. So you go ahead and pull that out. There you go. Let me talk about this one real quick first. So if you have a foam filter, usually what I'm going to do is, obviously it's going to be out of the package. I'm going to check to make sure the foam is not disintegrating. So I just run my hand across it a couple times. If you're leaving like big gouges in it, yep, time to buy a new foam filter because it's just degraded. It may just be dirty. So if it's just dirty, take it to the sink, a little bit of dish soap and warm water and, squeeze it out and whatnot. And then you can dry it out with a paper towel. The important part is get some fresh oil before you put it in and dribble it all over. And I squeeze it to get that oil through this type of foam filter. That's going to, as the air is moving through, that's going to catch all those debris and everything else you don't want getting sucked into your engine. So if you have a foam filter, that's the way you'd want to do that. And we can't do it with yours because we don't have it. So again, if you have an issue like this where you don't have the filter, take a snapshot of the model and whatnot, and you'll be able to go to the store and pick out the correct filter and cover, possibly. You have the cover. That's good. All right. Oh, yeah. Yep. They're filthy. So that's actually a really good example. Let me see yours. Well, no, I mean, this is what I'm getting at. So, right. Well, not so much that. So what I'm looking at is I have crud in here that somebody cleaned out. I got grass clippings and all this sort of stuff in there, right? And sometimes all I got to do is just kind of knock out that stuff, right? You see this one? It's got oil in it. So that could be from a variety of things. Tilting it, if it, it could be spewing oil in there. So this might be one of those little indicators, like it may run just fine, but if your paper filter is soaked in oil and every time you do it, it's soaked in oil, it may be one of those things you may want to take in and go, is this an issue or not, type thing. So like I said, if you have the correct size filter, which I do in that bag right there, I'll make you a deal. I'll give you my old one. It's a little better. I bet you money it fits. All I got to do is clean it out. So, yep, clean that out. And if you have one of these styles, take this off. Take this thing off. Usually I'll take this off. And again, I'll take it, to the sink or it's paper towel, clean it or whatever. You may want to clean that one out, though, because I didn't get into it that much. Just don't do it right there. Yep, you can use a brush, a light brush or a scrub brush. Here, you can use one of these guys down here that are floating around somewhere. Oh, yeah, that'll work. Yeah, I wouldn't use a wire brush, but regular old brush is good. Let's do a quick clean. If you have a new one, great. And you don't necessarily need to change the filter every time. It just kind of depends on what environment you're mowing in, right? If you're mowing and there's a major dust cloud every time you mow, yeah, you may need to work on your filter more often than not. So that goes in there like that. Yep. And then what I do is I just make sure I'm going to kind of clean this out a little bit. I just don't want to drop stuff down into, you guys, can you see what I'm pointing at? Well, right. So sometimes I'm going to clean that. But you got to be really careful. You don't want to drop stuff down in there. So some people will even cover that with a clean paper towel or something like that, then clean around it. Just realize you don't want to do that. So best you can to be able to get that. Pop your new filter in, and that's changing the filter. As I said, it's pretty straightforward on that. And it usually have little tabs. Yours probably has tabs also if you were to look at it. Yep. So I do want to, there is one thing I didn't have on here. Some of these mowers have what is called a primer. You have to prime this 2 or 3 times before it's going to start. Check, if you have that, check that rubber on that and making sure that's not brittle and whatnot. So, I'm sure you can. It just depends on how handy you are, right? So, again, we don't get into tearing apart the engine and all that sort of stuff. Not in this class. So, but it's one of those things where you can look at it And you can usually tell when that rubber's starting to go. It may still prime just fine, but it has cracks and whatnot, and you're like, I need to get that replaced probably by mid-season or something along that line. So it's just looking at it, just making sure that stuff's in good shape. There you go. What's the next one? Oh, okay. Yeah, I couldn't remember if I had both of them or not. So another thing when you're lubricating your cables and stuff, especially if you have like metal on metal like these here, you have where the handle goes in. I'm going to go along and squirt a little bit in there. Another thing is if you have adjusters like this, right? So, oh yeah, so you can get in here and spray in there wherever you have metal on metal running by each other. I just give it a little squirt. Watch it. Don't get that stuff on the muffler. It'll smoke like a bear. Right? Yeah, you don't want to get it in there. So, those areas, if you have those spots where you have metal on metal, I think there's another. Here, there you go. Thank you. So you can go through and just double check all those areas. Sometimes too, sometimes these mowers are designed to fold up. So you have where this metal on metal right here. And, if you do that, I squirt in there and check that also. Right. So it's one of those things where it just keeps things going well. And two, you wouldn't think like where this handle actually fits into that hole in the side of this bar here that it can break. It can. It happened to me one time because I didn't lubricate it and it was all corroded, and I did this and forced it and broke it. So, but yeah, that's true. I never use the bag. I don't even think about it. So yeah, if you have a bag, right, that's a good call. Right. Right. Well, if you have a mulching mower, you can mulch that, and you can change. If you don't have a mulching mower, you can put a mulching blade on a standard side discharge mower if that's what you have. It curves, but what it does is it basically suspends all the grass clippings up in that deck and just cuts them down, spits them back down in your grass. So, yep. And a lot of times too, they'll sell like a kit where you get the blade and you might have something that plugs up the side right here. So the other thing is if you have springs, so like spring loads here, sometimes there's a spring in here. I'm going to do a quick shot on those and just making sure. Other thing is as far as setting your deck height, ideally, most grasses like to be about 2.5 to 3 inches tall. So this is where your adjustments here are. If you're cutting that grass really super low, and this is not all grasses, but most grasses, usually it doesn't like it. There are southern grasses that like it, but us up here. So make sure all of your adjustments are set so that your height is, you're not mowing like this. You're not mowing like this, right? So no, you just pick it up like a hedge trimmer, right? I've seen those. I'm like, oh, okay. So, but yeah, so I mean, and we'll talk about this in the spring summer maintenance too, as far as nice sharp blade, setting that up higher and higher. Sometimes it takes an adjustment. So I won't say I had this one set really high, and my wife didn't like how the grass looked, so I lowered it. But then I slowly notched it up over time, and I didn't tell her that. Oh, she's not listening anyway. Oh, she is. So yeah, but I mean, generally that grass likes to be a little bit taller. Does it make you have to mow it a little more? Not necessarily. I mean, this time of year, you're always mowing anyways. So, yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah, a lot of times. Yep. So if you have a snowblower, a lot of this stuff is transferable to that. You know, most of them have spark plugs. Most of them have oil. You know, I mean, so a lot of the same things apply. You know, there may be slight differences, but yeah. Another thing you want to check. Right, like I said, what we've been doing is not necessarily fixing. We're just, like I said, maintaining. Another thing we want to check is the cord itself, right? So generally, this is one of those things I like to do in the beginning because your hands aren't all greasy and everything else, and you can check to make sure it's not frayed or anything along that line. If it is, you know, to be able to get in there and be able to check that out or get a new one. And we don't get into that, but there's good old YouTube out there. Yeah, and that's it. Easy enough, right? All right. All right. So yeah, and then you know when you oh I got a thing in my truck to take it back with me. I got a place to recycle it. So yeah, yeah, we're gonna have to take those out. So yeah, is there any questions as far as this goes? Yeah, and that's yep. You want to check that. So get a rag, wipe it off, and check it. Yep, clean rag. I'm not too terribly worried about that. I'll check it when I get home. Yeah.
My brother always says it don't matter, but this says E10 gas.
Mm-hmm.
So that does matter.
Yeah. It means that it can take it. Some mowers don't deal with ethanol gas very well. Some do. So that says right. Right.
This one says no E15.
Right. So it depends on where you're getting your gas, right?
So can I put?
You can put E10. Yep. You can put regular unleaded. Generally, with a small engine, I keep a 5-gallon jug. I put in a gas stabilizer right when I fill that jug. So it's just something similar, you know, something basic like this. And that way, whenever I'm filling it up, I always know that it's treated gas and it's not necessarily going to go bad on me. It's just a gas stabilizer. I squirt some in. It says how much the ratio is, but it doesn't necessarily hurt it if there's a little extra in there. So anytime I'm filling up my 5-gallon container of gas, I just dump some in and then fill it, and then I know it's mixed, you know, with this gas. Right. Now, if you're in a pinch, let's say it's fall, you're using your mower to mow up your leaves and stuff like that. That's a whole other class. And, you know, it starts snowing and you have half a tank of gas in there. Yeah, you could dump some in. Trick is run that mower for a minute. Let that get into the bowl of that carburetor so it doesn't sit there and gel up over the winter and give you grief come next spring. So the old oil, yeah, let's take this thing, man. So the old oil, I have a container. So, I mean, you could put it in some kind of container, milk jug or whatever, or I have one at home that's, so I sit back in my truck where I can hold quite a bit. A lot of places will recycle it. I know you can take it down to, like O'Reilly's will take it, and they recycle it, and I'm sure other places will recycle it also. There are even places out there that use it for heat. My motorcycle shop, that's what they use for their furnace. So if I'm in that area, I'll take it to them, and they just use it over the winter to run their furnace for their shop. So there's a lot of ways to be able to use that oil. Just don't dump it out. So I'll shut up now.
No, you absolutely not, Mr. Taylor. We always appreciate hearing from you. I just wanted to take the time to thank Mr. Taylor for the information that he gave us with basic lawnmower maintenance. I wanted to thank all of the participants that viewed online, and I wanted to send an extra special thank you to the people that decided to join us in person. It was a lively class filled with hands-on participation. Our next class on Tuesday will be spring and summer maintenance with the magnificent Mr. Lee Taylor. So we invite you all to come out and see us next Tuesday at 6:00.
All right. And if you haven't checked it, you just make sure to keep an eye on that oil, like I said. So if you didn't fill it up here before you start your sucker up, make sure it's filled up right. All right. Now it's cleanup time. Yeah.